Reese LaFleur, I think the name is Reese LaFleur, going once.
Good morning,
Sister
Doctor.
Reese. How you doing, Sister Reese? Where you at in the world, Queen?
Patterson, New Jersey.
Patterson, New Jersey, East Side High.
Yes.
Yes,
right
indeed. Joe Clark in the game. Shout out to my sisters up in Patterson, the Jordan family, Montrese and Natalie and Lisa and Ashanti and the Queen Mother and the whole squad. Go right ahead, Queen.
I wanted to tell you, my husband, he put me on to who you were. So
yes,
he's like a very big fan. And the other day we were watching the new Roots, and he pulled up, I was trying to say, I think it's a Jimmy Lynch letter or some type of letter that they wrote white slaves.
Willie Lynch.
Yes, and it was like how they would control us for years to come, years to come. And I just see it so much, like especially here in Patterson. It's like no one's taking social distancing. The liquor stores are open. It's everybody's on the corner. Everybody's on drugs. And every day we ride by, he's like, this is what I'm talking about. So I just want to say you are doing such a good job. And I
appreciate you. One piece of knowledge for you. When we look at the problems in the Black community, we have to recognize that they have a cause. We also have to recognize that they have a solution. Now, we are responsible for the solution, but the white man is responsible for the cause. Every problem in the Black community was caused by a white institution. Show me a problem, and I'll show you institution. Mass incarceration was caused by the criminal justice system. Unemployment and homelessness is caused by the economic system. The miseducation is caused by the educational system. Many people are quick to blame Black people for their problems. That is correct if you blame us for not solving them. Yes, we are responsible for not solving them. We created none of them. And the original problem was created when we were minding our business on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean in Africa, and the white man decided to come and forcibly remove us from our home. Had he never done that, we would have none of these problems because we would not even be here. So keep in mind, he caused them, but we must solve them.
Absolutely, brother. You are
right.
I'm telling you, like my mother's a little crazy, but I was like, listen, you keep watching all this crazy stuff on YouTube. I had her watch you. She was like, I like him. I was like, yeah, you got to listen to some stuff that feeds you. I just want to tell you, you're doing a very good job. And keep
Thank you, sister. And give a shout out to your husband for me.
Yes, shout out to Mike. He look at me like I'm crazy right now. But hey, Mike, I'm on Dr. Umar's live. He said, "Good work, brother."
All right, Queen. Be safe out there.
You be safe too.
All right, now, one love. Tap on in. You got a question or comment for the Prince? Question or comment for the Prince? Shell Blington going once. Shell Blington going twice. Where you at, Shelly? Hey, Princess Shelly, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
What, you about 17 years old?
No, I'm actually 25.
Ah, you look like a baby. That's a compliment. I hear that accent. You in the UK somewhere?
That's right, yeah, in London.
Okay, you're in London. What part of London?
West London.
West London, okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to London. Shout out to my London family. Wolverhampton, Manchester, Luton, Bristol. Shout out to France, Austria, Germany. Shout out to all my Africans in Europe. What's on your mind today, Queen?
I'll actually, now that you say that, I have a question. What you feel about, I don't know if it's that recent, but I've seen like it's quite prevalent in UK Twitter and the US Twitter. There seems to be quite of a diaspora war between the two, like not gelling so well, different culture differences. US,
which two, Queen? Which two? You mentioned two.
Between young Black British people and young Black African Americans.
Ah, okay, a divide between African American, African British.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't support that divide. As you know, I am a Pan-Africanist. I am a Garveyite. We believe one family, one race, one people. So when I come to the UK, shout out to Sister Kemet and my Power Sis family in the UK. Shout out to Sister Emma and her family It's all one love for me. We all come from the same place. We all come from the same place. Now, we do have a reactionary movement over here. We do have a reactionary movement over here that is dividing the consciousness of African Americans from everybody else so they can beg the white man for crumbs. We do have a movement over here that has a lot of politically uneducated followers who believe that tribalism is a solution for Black America's problems. I do not endorse it. I do not endorse it. We are one family. For all you know, you and I could share the same 8 times grandmother, great grandmother. You understand me? You and I could literally come from the exact same people back home on the continent. Wouldn't it be foolish to fight when we could actually be family? It makes no sense to divide the African family up for any reason. I have never seen a strategy that made sense to me that was based on tribalizing the African race. We have been tribalized enough. In fact, it was tribalism that allowed the European to come into Africa and dominate us as effectively as he did it. The worst thing we can do is tribalize and balkanize ourselves. We are one race. I don't push no African American nationality above any African British nationality, above any African Nigerian or African Ghanaian or African Ethiopian or African Australian nationality or African Canadian nationality. We are one race. Everybody, my brother and sister, equal. And when I speak for the race. I don't speak for no tribe, no nation, no ethnicity. I speak for the race. One Africa. United States of Africa. One Africa. Continue, Queen.
Well, that's the thing. It's true that obviously we all look the same to a certain person, but I don't believe that we should go by just because of the way other people look at us. They look at us all the same. I do think we are experiencing life similarly, but I also, know that we experience life separately. So I think it's important to celebrate.
Now, when you say separately, when you say separately, do you mean as individuals or as groups? When you say separately,
but either individually, my experiences with racism, etc., life, depression, whatever. It's
so. Let me ask you a question. Give me an experience of racism that you feel may be inherently different from your sisters in the United States or in Canada.
Oh no, it'd be different for me. They're like, it's policies, isn't it? Policies differ at different places.
No, not the policy. Your experience with racism. How does your experience with racism differ being in the UK than it would for a sister being in the US? How does your experience differ?
It's difficult for me to answer because I wouldn't know somebody's perspective living in the US.
Let me give you my answer. Having spoken on every continent in the world multiple times except Australia, it is no different. One of the biggest challenges I see when I travel the globe, no matter where I go, from the Caribbean to Asia to Africa to Canada, we all think that racism treats us uniquely different than the way it treats other African people.
I don't mean to interrupt, but before we continue, I do want to clarify that I'm not expressing different levels of racism. I'm talking about culturally, that we are different and that's okay, and that we can still be different, but can still, gel together. My culture is different to your culture. That's okay. It doesn't mean it's better or worse. We can still celebrate it, but it doesn't mean that it has to, it doesn't have to foster a divide between these different cultures. Everybody's different anyway. That's just life.
And I don't necessarily disagree with you. There is diversity amongst us as people. There is diversity.
I think that's where people like to divide. Black race isn't a monolith.
There is diversity.
So much different culture,
well, let me say this to you. There is diversity amongst us as individuals. There is diversity amongst us as nations and ethnicities. Okay. At the same time, it's like walking into a garden and you see a whole bunch of different plants, a whole bunch of different fruits and vegetables and flowers. On the surface, they're all different, and they are, but they all come from the same soil. Those seeds were all born from the same soil. The point that I'm trying to make, hear me out. I want you to hear me well. The point that I'm trying to make is I think to our detriment, we as Africans go too far in trying to enunciate the differences that we have with each other to our fault. Stay with me.
Yeah.
If you look at the white man, the Catholic or the Irish doesn't necessarily agree with the Italian doesn't necessarily agree with the Anglo-Saxon doesn't necessarily agree with the European Jew. Okay? The Palestinian doesn't necessarily agree with the Iraqi doesn't necessarily agree with the Iranian. The North Korean doesn't necessarily agree with the Chinese don't necessarily agree with the Vietnamese. There's diversity. There's diversity. But
what I'm saying is the diversity shouldn't have to divide us.
Listen, I'm not done. Let me finish. Okay. The point that I'm trying to make, though, when it comes time for them to look out for the best interests of white people, regardless of the nation, they can put those petty differences to the side and unite for the best interest of their race. It bothers me when I constantly hear black people talk about how different we are. Yes, we are diverse. We're the most diverse people in the world. There's more diversity in Africa than there is between Africans and the next closest race. But at the same time, as Sheikh Anta Diop wrote about in Cultural Unity of Africa, and I think you should read it, at the same time, we are born from the same soil. At the same time, there's a cultural, a historical, an anthropological, an ancestral, and a genetic commonality that we share. We should emphasize that instead of constantly talking about how different we are. Your racism in the UK is not much different than my racism in the US.
No, yeah.
Is not much
can I
racism
just clarify again? I'd just like to clarify again. I'm not speaking different levels. I'm saying that our differences shouldn't divide us. And I think
okay, but I want you to give me a clear difference, though. I'm challenging you to give me a clear difference.
I just mean culturally, like our jokes and things. When I speak about the differences I see on Twitter, people are specifically talking about gun violence and brutality that people have over there. And then I see UK Black Twitter talk about, well, we have, it's not much different.
Violence.
I mean, we don't have guns, but we still, you know, we still have racial profiling. We still have this, that, and the other. And that's what I'm trying to say is that we do experience a lot of similar things. It's a collective experience as well as individual. And that's why I think we can still celebrate our differences without using those differences to divide us. Like we still experience this together.
I agree. But I would also push back and say that the violence in the UK, the black on black fratricide, is not qualitatively different. And I've seen both up front from the violence here. We use the gun, they use the knife. Primarily.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hate. The unemployment rates are almost identical. The self-hate rates are almost identical. The pushing of LGBT is almost identical. America began as a British colony. American law is based on British law.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. There are differences in
culture, I follow you.
Collective oppression is the same everywhere. I mean, we experience this everywhere. It's oppression across the scale. We still have our cultural differences. That's fine. There's certain holidays I celebrate that you don't celebrate. But you know, at the end of the day, that's something we're all going to collectively.
But are those things relevant to the shared collective political and economic solidarity that the UK and the US should have as African people? Are those things how are those cultural nuances relevant to our shared collective political and economic destiny?
Well, it depends. Like if I have a culture, if I'm like built up in, for instance, an Islamic country as a black person, that would be different to somebody who's brought up into more a black person that's secular.
No, you're not answering the question.
It's like another layer of oppression.
But
so that's what I'm saying. Our culture. That's where it's cultural.
You're not hearing my question. Your difference of culture as you perceive it. Why is that relevant to a shared political and economic agenda that Black US and Black UK need to forge together? How is that? Why is that?
I'm not saying that these differences affect how we're treated by oppressors. So that's why I need to clarify.
No,
I'm not saying these differences.
Do they affect us working together?
No, that's what I'm saying. These differences shouldn't divide.
So why is there a need to highlight them?
Because people still argue about it. That's what I'm saying. That's why I was asking you, what do you say to these people?
So because people argue about it, because people
find the need to argue about it.
So because people argue about it, that makes it relevant for the political economic unification of Black US and Black UK?
Well, people can't unify if they're constantly talking about their division.
Well, We can if those who have a very strong Pan-African consciousness provide the political education in the US and provide the political education in the UK. We have to raise the consciousness
That doesn't mean people have to work on individually.
Not individually, as a group. We need a collective group consciousness. Shared group.
Individuals make a group. So you'll need these individuals to reach that consciousness, to then be collective, and then put those differences aside.
Okay. Are you aware that in almost every African culture, and I don't know of any culture where this is not the case, the smallest unit of human existence is the family, not the individual. Are you aware of that?
Well, of course, these things are passed down into a collective.
Right.
Of
Everything is about the group, not the individual. It's about the group.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against that. We're not arguing. We're not debating anything individually. We're pretty much on the same page. That's what I think.
I got you.
Right. Yeah.
I got you. Give me your name again, Queen.
Shelby.
Sister Shelby. All right. I want to see you next time I'm over in the UK. And I want you to save up some flight money, Sister Shelby, because once we finish the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, we're going to have that International Pan-African Women's Conference. So make sure you save up that money. Get that ticket. Philadelphia International Airport. The school is 20 minutes from Philadelphia International Airport. And I'm going to take this time to also thank all my brothers and sisters in the UK and throughout Europe who have donated to the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Their DNA is on those 4 buildings. They have played a major role in the fundraising effort all the way from the UK, practicing economic Pan-Africanism. Thank you for that, Queen. I appreciate the intellectual conversation. You are my sister. I love you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay.
All right, Shelby. Stay blessed, Queen. Woo! We got some work to do. Who tapping in next? Who tapping in next? We got to get to the unity. We got to get to the unity. We got to get to the unity.